Welcome to Chautauqua People. I'm John V. My guest today is Kit Trapasso. Kit was born in Buffalo, grew up in North Tonawanda, attended North Tonawanda schools and Valparaiso University. He did graduate work at Butler, Indiana, and Pitt. After living in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and San Francisco while serving in various psychiatric facilities and schools, he made his way to Medina, New York, where he completed his 38-year career as a school psychologist. He works with preschoolers and occasionally subs. Kit directs the Children's School at Chautauqua Institution, where he leads a staff of 45, aged 16 to 70. Kit, how did you make your way to Chautauqua?
Well, just a few short 37 years ago, my wife and I had a visit at Chautauqua, and we had a lovely stay. And while we were here, we said, lovely place, let's see if we can find some types of employment. We really want to experience Chautauqua beyond the lectures. I went to see the director of Children's School. I was doing my doctoral work in special education and behavioral psychology at the time, and said, I'd be happy to join you, if nothing more than maybe for a month or so. I had an interview with then one of the acting vice presidents, and they said, we'd love you to come back. 10 months later, I heard nothing and thought, well, it was a wonderful venture. Nothing ventured, nothing lost. About 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail welcoming me to Children's School. There had been a change in directorship, and a new director was on board. There was a new president on board, Dr. Hess, and he brought his educational, his early childhood program from Medaille College. She came and was the director for a couple of years. She asked me to join her. We had a wonderful time together. I was here for about 7 weeks. A director later, as she left, a director from Mayville came in, and she asked me to join them as well. I was with her for about 2 or 3 summers, and then she moved to Florida, and the institution asked me in 1984 to become acting director. I've had the privilege and honor of working at Chautauqua since 1984 as director of Children's School, and it has been nothing but a wonderful place. I've met fabulous people, and we've entertained thousands of children, and it has been my honor to work at Chautauqua.
That's great. So tell me what the history of the Children's School is.
Well, Chautauqua Children's School is truly one of the oldest early childhood centers in all of the country. We did some historical work some years ago, a friend from Chautauqua and I, and we believe that it started in 1878. Between 1878 and 1879, they were beginning to put ideas together, and at that time, the idea was to look at preparing kindergarten teachers for instructing 5-year-olds. Kindergarten was not mandatory then. It still in many states is not mandatory. So it was kind of a prep. And there were not a lot of teacher programs in the country for 5-year-olds. So Chautauqua initially was a program for 4 and 5-year-olds, and we were here doing teacher prep. Over the course of the next, John Dewey was here. We know that a few of his colleagues were here, introducing public education as he was introducing it across the country, really enlightening people on how to interact with 5-year-olds, beyond play, storytelling, improvising activities, doing some play interaction. Over the course of years, probably from about 1930 until about the early 1970s, we had college affiliations. University of Pittsburgh, Cornell, Syracuse University, University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, SUNY Buffalo, SUNYAC Buffalo, and then finally at
Buff State was there?
Buff State was there as well. I think what changed over the years was that as we were evolving in that teacher prep, we were also taking a peek at who we were and how we best help children. And we were noticing that there was somewhat of a decline in enrollment in terms of students wanting to come here and do their practicums. So as our last affiliation with University of Pittsburgh started to wane, we no longer kept an affiliation. However, about that time, we also had a great interest in connecting with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, NAEYC, that most people are familiar with. And we looked at their standards as the standards for Chautauqua and for Children's School. I think we wanted to make sure that we were always looking at age-appropriate activities, what was developmentally appropriate, and what was on the cutting edge of playground supervision, classroom interaction, story time, reading time, language activities, and the uniqueness, of course, to Chautauqua were all the cultural arts. So that's how I think how we evolved to the present.
And tell me what's happened following the departure of the universities. So a more recent model.
Okay, the more recent model really has taken a peek at Chautauqua offers something that most preschools do not have within their easy accessible grasp, and that's all of the arts. Having a symphony / orchestra, opera, theater company, an art gallery, and art professionals on the grounds, I think we sat down and said, why are we not tapping into these artistic, creative activities? Let's bring our children to them, or let's bring them to our children. And I think over the course of the last 35 years, we have really immersed ourselves in what Chautauqua is all about. Every week is a theme, just like Chautauqua Institution. If we can connect with the greater Chautauqua theme, we try, but sometimes we have, of course, our own themes. Each theme is a different theme, or each week is a different theme, rather, and we really take a peek at those artistic ventures. We now have an opera apprentice on board. We have a full-time artist, our teacher on board. We have connected with the symphony, the Music Festival Symphony Orchestra. We go and visit them weekly. They come to us. Members of the symphony come in groups, like the woodwind section, the brass section, the percussion section. They come directly to Children's School. They'll do a 20 to 30 minute presentation. The children can ask questions. They get a chance to listen carefully to an instrument. They may be allowed to maybe quietly or easily touch a piece of delicate instrumentation. But then on one day a week, we then go and listen to a rehearsal. And we may also go out to the practice shacks and just listen to people rehearsing. In the theater department, we have a presentation from the theater department, but we also go to Bratton Theater. We watch sets being produced. We want children to see what's involved in set production. We also have a theater creative arts person on my staff. We're doing weekly skits, creative movement activities that kind of mimic some of the things that are happening in our theater program. And our resident artist is always taking a peek at what can I do relative to the weekly theme, and maybe that either something the symphony is doing or something that our opera is doing, that I can enhance that with an artistic activity. The Opera Apprentice program has been nothing but fabulous. That's now been in operation for about 9 years. We have a student coming from Fredonia every year. They're with us for 8 weeks. And they do an in-class presentation. They do an adaptation of an opera. The children sing. Sometimes we're making costumes. We might be making masks. We will sometimes be singing in a foreign language. My creative movement person will get involved in that, and they may do some dance and theatrical kinds of things to enhance that opera performance. And then actually we had a wonderful thing happen a year ago. Unfortunately, my wife passed a few years ago, and we were always looking for more outdoor space. Well, a wonderful benefactor, the Hermans Foundation, helped build a pavilion that gives us space to do a lot of outside crafts, a lot of outdoor activities, and my opera people are out there all the time now. So the children are undercover, it's open air, but there's a roof, and we're not getting wet or hailed on if it's bad weather. So I think we've really tried to take a peek at the arts. That's who we are. And then I think in our classrooms, from the get-go, because we were a training facility, 2 teachers, 2 certified teachers in the classroom, and usually 2 to 3 assistants, college student, high school student. And all of the college students are...
Let me go back and get the numbers
Sure.
again. This is a big deal. How many
Okay.
teachers?
Generally 4 in a space.
4 in a space, and that would include 2 full and 2...
2 full-time certified teachers, a college student, and then probably a high school student. And fortunately, we always have people that come and volunteer, want to see what children's school is all about. So they may come and stay with us 2 or 3 days, could stay for a week. So, and we usually have about 20 children in a class. So our ratios, NAEYC recommends 8 to 1. We're usually probably at 5 to 1 or 6 to 1 at the most. During that 3-hour time, the children come to us at 9 in the morning, they leave at noon. The initial transition time, children are coming us maybe for the first time. I think what has changed, years ago, many children were coming for the first time to early childhood programs. Such is not the case. Today, working families for the last 20 years already have had their children in early childhood, nursery, toddler programs, 2, 3, 4, maybe in early birthing classes right after because moms are going back to work. So it's more about looking at, I'm not home, maybe I'm at grandma's cottage. Maybe I'm with my aunt and uncle in their condo along with 3 cousins and another aunt and uncle. So getting children comfortable with our space. So we want to make sure that when they initially walk in the door, it's quiet, we're playing, we're interfacing, we're meeting some friends for the first time, as well as 3 or 4 or 5 teachers. By about 10 o'clock, we're kind of wrapping that up. We're doing some circle times, we're listening to a story, and then whatever that weekly theme is, maybe it's starships, maybe it's construction. We do a lot of open-ended types of themes. Construction week, we might be building something, we might be creating a platform to perform on. We might be making a house, and the children are helping us create that house. The next maybe half hour is a time to look at what that theme is all about. So we might be singing some songs, we might be doing an art activity, we might be building something, we might be having a conversation. What did you make, and why are we making it, and how is that going to lead us into something for tomorrow? Most children come to us for about 5 days. 25 years ago, children stayed 2, 3, 4 weeks. Now about 73% of our children are here for 1 week. About 82% are here for 10 days or less. So that constant changing in a weekly theme needs to occur. Every Monday we say goodbye to 2/3 of the class, to 70% of the class. On Monday, 5 children are coming back in. We have 14 new children. So we're always trying to make sure that we're helping the new children transition in. We're trying to create activities for those returners that maybe I was starting to make something last week, so I still have time to continue that if I want. I want to bring Johnny, who I'm meeting for the first time. Johnny, come play with me. So it's about friendships. I think you would know this as a lifelong Chautauquan. What I hope we do well. Chautauqua is a place for children. It's a place for families. I hope we're building lifelong friendships and relationships starting at 3 years of age at children's school. So I'm seeing my best friend John. I'm seeing my good friend Katie. We ride the bus together. We have lunch together. We've done some art and crafts together, and we've been in the 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. We've gone to club together. to me, those are lifelong friendships. Those are the children and families who make a commitment to Chautauqua and see Chautauqua as a critical part of what a healthy family interaction and support system is all about. So I think that we do well.
And for so many of these people who've come through that into adulthood, their best friends are their Chautauqua friends.
Absolutely.
And if something is a crisis, something goes wrong,
Yes.
they have a wonderful event they want to share.
Yes.
The Chautauqua
Yes.
friends into
Yes.
adulthood.
Yes.
Get the word first.
Probably those 23 to 25-year-olds drift away for a few years, find themselves, maybe they're off getting married or doing something in a foreign country. But finally, when they connect with their adulthood, they return with their spouse or their partner. They come back with their children and then make that next commitment with their own children.
Right, right. So what is the current census in all your classes?
Well,
now,
a typical summer.
Typical summer.
A typical summer now, we probably have about 600 different children coming
Okay.
to children's school throughout the season. We have about 140 to 160 children on a typical day, weeks 1 through 8. What begins to happen maybe the beginning of 8 through week 9. New York and California are one of the few states that start school after Labor Day. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, most of the schools in the South are starting schools August 7th, August 15th. So we see many of our families coming early and leaving early because their children are going back to school. So sometimes our numbers shift significantly after probably week 7 through week 9.
Now, you have a lot of physical facilities there that only get used a short period of time. I understand there was a renovation in 1994.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about what happened then.
Well, I think at that point in time, Chautauqua was having a wonderful renaissance. People were reconnecting or maybe visiting and saying, I really like this place. I think the essence of freedom, allowing your children to take a bike ride, and people were starting to renovate maybe those 50 to 70-year-old cottages. So there were lots of new people coming to Chautauqua. Within 2 to 5 years, our census went from 90 to 100, children maybe during the week, to 210, 220, 230.
Wow.
We really almost doubled in size. We needed the space. And then, can I tell you a funny story?
Mm-hmm.
We were doing an open house in 1993. And during the open house, it was a wonderful theatrical performance by the Fives. The floor collapsed. Now, luckily, the joist underneath the floor cracked. So the floor it went down about 4 inches. I mean, there was certainly no one getting hurt. There was no tragedy. But for the last 3 weeks of the season, we had to block off the back of the room. Well, I think, thankfully, someone said, I think the school is in need for a major overhaul. The school had been basically built. It was at Kellogg Hall in the 70s in 1878 through about 1910. Mm-hmm. Most of the existing facility that you see now, which is kind of a replica of what was built in the 20s and 30s. There was a back room put on, I believe, in either 59 or 60. So the building was literally probably 50 years old. It
Right.
was time. But I think what was so wonderful was that we had a center room that was all brick. We took all those existing bricks out and used them to make our front and back porches. There were pillars in the center room. We took the pillars out, and those pillars are on the front and back of our existing porches. When they renovated, updated to code the building, it almost as looked they hadn't changed the building at all, where they actually had, now we had a facility that had appropriate lavatories. Mm-hmm. We had running water. We had a dishwasher. We had electricity that really was consistently working, a fire alarm system. So we went from
Old Chautauqua.
Old Chautauqua to a workably modern facility.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Let's switch gears. Critical item that we need to talk about, and that is there's a great diversity of opinion, people well-intentioned but vehement about what should happen with schools this fall as we face this coronavirus. And I wonder, as a school psychologist, we're switching gears here.
Okay.
Can you reflect and sort of suggest what factors should we consider? Are there things that just jump right at you that ought to be shared?
Probably what jumps out at me the most is that I think we have to look at probably maybe a multifaceted approach, given the ages of the children, the populations that we're working with. Youngsters, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old children need to be stimulated beyond a camera, beyond a computer. They need some interfacing. So looking at those elementary schools, the pre-K through 3rd grade, those children, I think we need to look at some social distancing. We have the inner spaces to do that. We have gymnasiums to use. We have hallways to use. There is not any reason why we can't better use our facilities. And if we had most classrooms in New York, their early childhood programs through probably grade 3 probably only have 20 children to begin with. I think we should be having conversations with our state university programs. Where are our interns? Bring some but bring some of our college prep students in to assist in the classrooms, learn. I actually have a company where I live that is doing lots of plastics developing for appropriate protection. Our little children need to be in school. Now, it could be an hour less. There could be opportunities to do some things outside while it's still nice out. Other spaces, gyms, auditoriums, hallways. If we only need to put 10 or 12 in a room instead of 19 or 20, then do that. They still need to be involved in a circle. We can have a really large circle. We certainly can still play in groups of 2 and 3. And we can make things and we can interface. And I think if we can make this fun. This doesn't have to be an obstacle. Children, to me, imitate what they see modeled. If a teacher's having a conversation or using type of some apparatus to shield or protect, and if we said, boys and girls, it's time to put on our face masks, no different than when you're going to the computer room to put on your headsets or going to the gym to put on your sneakers. For the next 20 minutes, we're going to wear our masks while we're sitting close to each other. I think children will do that. Now, maybe in middle and high school, maybe we're going in 2 days a week. Maybe we're starting to look at some virtual education. And in my high schools, we're probably looking at least 2 days a week out of school, and maybe a day a week of, I'm going to do some things in our classrooms. We'll lecture, we'll interface, we'll do labs. Labs can be done individually or much smaller groups. So I don't think there's any one thing that we do, but we have to look at the age of the children. And in my quiet opinion, young children need to be in school for at least part of the week and part of the day.
What are the consequences if they don't get there?
They need stimulation, so we're going to need to look at ways at how we can better stimulate them. Computers stimulate momentarily. Flashing screens and flashing lights will do things for a moment, but not for very long. So I think we need to make sure that if they're not, we better be sending home activities for a care provider, whoever that may be. Unfortunately, some moms and dads still need to go to work. So who's ever going to be staying home with that child? Here may be some hands-on things that you're doing. Are we playing? Children need to play. Children need direction and support, but they need to be creative and have the opportunities to just listen. Here's a direction. Now you run with this. Tell me what you'd like to do. You can't always do that with a computer. Computers are, here's a stimulus, give me a response. Sometimes the responses are now going to be more, we want them to be more language, not touching some kind of a stick or touching a button. They need the physical movement, I believe. Plus, they need some social interaction. So if someone's going to be home with them, there needs to be time to converse. Why are we doing that? Wasn't this fun to do this? Tell me why this was fun. What did you learn from making this? I like that drawing. Tell me about it. That needs to occur. That's how children learn.
Got it. Got it. And there's also an issue with nutrition for a lot of kids.
Yes, absolutely.
That schools provide
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay, one more switch of gears here. A favorite question. And if a young Chautauquan came to you looking for advice after expressing an interest in a career as a child psychologist, what would be your counsel?
As soon as you can, as soon as you have decided that this is your vocation of interest, this is something you think you want to pursue, immerse yourself in experiences with children. Whether you're initially babysitting, maybe you're becoming a volunteer at a library to tutor, maybe you are going into a classroom and assisting a teacher. As a senior in high school, there used to be a club called Future Teachers of America. I believe in some schools they still exist. I joined Future Teachers of America only because I wanted to get connected with children. When I was in college, I did 3 internships at psychiatric facilities that had children at them at the time. There aren't too many of those places any longer, but there are a lot of special needs programs, and there are a lot of special education programs that certainly would like, actually my granddaughter will be going through an early childhood program through BOCES in Medina, and the Allied Health has a early childhood program. She is not going to school until October, I believe, the first week in October, because they're preparing those high school students the first 5 weeks about you're going to be interfacing with 4-year-olds and 3 and 4-year-olds. Here's some things you're going to experience. Here's some things we want you to read and get comfortable with. So any way they can connect with young children in meaningful activities and opportunities with workable guidance and support. You just don't go into a classroom. You have some support. I think you do a little bit of reading. You ask questions. Keep a notebook. We ask all of our early childhood professionals that come on board with us, keep a notebook with you at all time. If I have 4 professionals in a classroom, you're learning a lot about what's happening every day. Do you want to share about that at the end of each day? Write them down. What did you like about this activity? Why did it work? Why did it bomb? And if it worked, how could I even make that better? I think we constantly need to critique. So to me, any way you can look at something, view it, have a sense that I like this a lot, I like children, I like the interfacing with young people, find a way and make it work.
Great. Kit, we're out of time. What else would you like to cover before we go? Usually there's some issues that have our guests come in here that are burning that we haven't touched upon. I always like to give you a chance to hit the 9th inning here.
On my 9th inning hit,
Yeah.
enjoy the time you're working with children. My sense is that maybe we're always critiquing what we're doing, but let's not forget that the bottom line is learning should be fun.
Indeed.
Making sure that whatever you're doing, you're enjoying it and the children are enjoying it. And if that isn't happening, you need to take a step back. Learning should be fun every day. Classrooms are built on relationships, trust, and laughter. So if I have a burning desire for anything, people, let's make our classrooms fun. Let's make learning the high point of every child's day.
You bet. You bet. This has been fun. And
Thank
in
you.
a normal
My
day, we
pleasure.
would shake hands.
Yes.
But somehow with this 6-foot separation, it ain't going to
works.
happen. But do come back.
Oh, more than my pleasure. And it's an honor to be here and to work at Chautauqua for the years that I've worked. I've met wonderful people. Actually, the other day, I'll finish with this. I was looking through some old pictures, and I found 9 pictures of Mr. Rogers. My supervisor and I from Chautauqua this year went to the Mr. Rogers Foundation put on a NAEYC lecture at Elmwood Franklin School in Buffalo. And I found the pictures. He came to Chautauqua Children's School in the early about 84, 85, and I found those pictures. So we're finding some frames to put those at Children's. He was a pure delight. What a man.
Great. Thanks so very much.
My pleasure.
See you now.
Take care.
Bye-bye.